Red Raygun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show. Hello.
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 Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good day.
Good evening.
Good night.
Good to be here.
Good bucket.
Good Friday.
Good glasses.
Good. You're just looking at things and good.
You're suggesting I have a bucket here? I don't have a bucket. That just
well,
came out of my imagination.
Well, a good glass of orange juice.
Yeah, I think you were hesitating for too long.
Well, I'll give you that. I don't mind. I don't mind losing this once. Goodness.
Loch Ness.
I just like this idea that this could be an infinite loop of good mug of tea, good screen in front of me,
Good speaker.
good speaker, and then you could say good other speaker.
Good metronome.
Oh, it's another edition of me and Nick's new game, the metronome. You have 1,000 seconds to stop the metronome before the room explodes. That's just what we were talking about in some weird sort of segment in our own minds. Yeah. Anyway, this is the Benji and Nick Show, your number one vintage television podcast.
I forgot to say though that wasn't that was the Loch Ness game, and it's not a game, and it's not about Loch Ness. But as you say,
well, here we are. We are a cult television podcast. We talk about all kinds of things. Vintage. Yes, that's right. We're trying to segue out of the being called cult television because it's been called that for a while. But then we're dealing with a lot of things that aren't cult anymore. So I hereby rebrand us a vintage or retro. What sounds better? I mean,
retro vintage
television
banana
podcast. This week we are talking about Hornblower.
An Even Chance, which is the first episode. When was Hornblower broadcast?
So it would have been in the early 90s, because I remember watching it when it was first on, and I was very young.
Very young, yes. And be interesting.
Oh no, it was late 1998. That's why I remember it.
I see. Be interesting for you to attempt the pronunciation of the lead actor again.
Yes, well, thankfully, straight away we did have an email, didn't we, through from somebody giving me the correct pronunciation of how to say it. So I do apologise for my terrible Welsh. But it says here, this is from Mark Crozier. I was like going, Mark Crozier says, Benji's mangling of Welsh pronunciation is hurting my ears. As I said, I think I said Gruffud, is pronounced Griffith.
Yes.
Interesting.
It's just Griffith. Yeah. It's just the Welsh spelling of that. Johan, his first name is.
Johan Griffith. There we go. Well, I do apologise.
Much easier than you into you again. Johan Anyway, when we talk about Hornblower later, once again we'll be joined by our Across the Ocean special guest regular reviewer Shelley Dean. And as usual, we'll also hopefully be talking to Jamie Anderson, although I don't know, I haven't heard from him. Son of Jerry Anderson, dear friend of us. Perhaps he'll be having something to say about the good old kicking we gave his beloved Terrorhawks last week.
Bless him.
Yeah, we duffed it right up.
That's the thing about the Benji and Nick Show. Sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get. Jamie has just got in touch, actually.
Oh, he's on the road, and you might have to insert me in the old-fashioned way. What does that mean?
Well, it's obvious, isn't it?
No.
We have to dig a hole and plug it with Jamie. I think he means... Yeah, I don't actually know what he means. Isn't it normally you and him have a quick...
him.
Yeah, you and him have a quick...
Phone.
What does that mean?
The GAT mean. I made a mistake on my typing.
Well,
anyway, we'll deal with that later. In a moment, your emails sent to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. But first, the Benji and Nick Show is proud to be sponsored by The Village Shop, the online e-store run by the Unmutual website and Coit Media Limited, your one-stop shop for all things Prisoner, Dangerman, and Patrick McGowan, including DVDs, Blu-rays, books, CDs, audio dramas, clothing, photos, homeware, and gifts. New items are added weekly. Benji and Nick Show listeners can enjoy a 10% discount on all purchases purchases by using the code LOCHNESS10, LOCHNESS10, capital letters, no spaces. Use that at the checkout. A further donation will also be made to Hope House Children's Hospice at no cost to you. The address is www.theprisonershop.co.uk. Let's recommend something there. There's a really new offer, which there's a code GOODNESS50, GOODNESS50, all capital letters on the letters there, no spaces. And that will get Benji and Nick Show listeners 50% off Where Have I Been All My Life, the hardback memoirs of ITC actress Annette Andre, with a foreword by Roger Moore.
Yes, well, my Roger Moore just laughing. Also, I've just had a look on the used collectibles, and somebody has actually purchased the prisoner cape. So it's gone. It's finished. It's gone. Yeah,
it's gone.
So let's see. Can we get somebody to purchase the Serious Charge original 1955 theatre program? I want to see that gone by next week. Not because I've got anything against it. I'm just curious to see whether we can visibly shift something. Visibly shift something. Well, there we go. Fantastic.
There's also nicholasbriggs.com.
Certainly is.
You might like to go there and buy some of the stuff that I'm selling, and I will sign it for you. I just signed. What did I sign the other day? Oh, it was a DVD of the David Tennant one with Davros in. I can't remember anything.
Oh, Stolen Earth, Journey's End.
Yeah, that's it. I signed that for someone. Shall I do the first email?
Oh, it'd be rude not to.
Sent to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com from Neil J. Allen. It was sent on the 12th of August in the future, in the year 2308. The Whole Thing's Beyond My Comprehension is the title. Hi Nick, Benji and Shelley. After last week's demolition of Terrorhawks, I thought I'd better see if my 30-odd-year-old ago memories of the show still hold up. So off I went to Network and purchased a Blu-ray copy to go down memory lane. As I said, it's been over 30 years since I watched it on TV, and I had memories of a series to rival Star Wars. How the memory cheats. I only watched, like Benji, the first 2 episodes, but I think in the words of Dr. Neinstein, the whole thing's beyond my comprehension. Here's a few of my thoughts. 1. Dr. Neinstein needs reporting to the Terrorhawks HR department. Talk about a chip on his shoulder. The rest of the team must be walking around on eggshells. Maybe it's because he's a clone, or maybe he's just a complete prat. 2. In episode 2, Zelda gives the Terrorhawks a road. This must be the first time in the history of fiction any aliens have shown their awesome power by building roads. 3. The puppets were terrible. Their faces had no expressions of any of the character of previous Anderson puppets. It was a real step back in quality. 4. As a kid, I remember the ball Zeroids as being amazing, and as characters they are. Windsor Davis and the Camp 101 or 101 on the space station are probably the best part of the show. But as soon as my partner pointed out that Zeroids sounds like hemorrhoids,
oh gosh,
and they look like giant silver hemorrhoids, I lost a lot of respect for poor old Sergeant Major Zero. As the Benji and Nick Show teaches us, it's sometimes good to visit shows you remember from your past, and sometimes it's not. P.S. Was Jamie's no-show for last week's podcast a case of knowing when it's best to keep your head down? Haha, winky smile. Thanks, guys.
Oh, poor Jamie. The thing he loves has been well and truly destroyed. But I suppose he can lift his head high knowing that actually he sold a Blu-ray. So, actual action there.
Yeah, that's true.
Isn't it, really? Yeah. One of those things, I think if you sometimes you either love it or you hate it. There's so many things that I adore that other people don't. Like tripods, for example, which I think is fantastic, whereas other people, as they've shown on here, think it's dreadful. So there we go. What can we do?
That's very Ecclesian.
It is, yes.
You see, very irritated.
Anyway, so we got another one here. It says, subject, love me some Shelley. This is sent on the 10th of the 8th, 2020, year of our Lord 2109. Got the future. No. And this one is from Laura Valensky. Though I'm totally guessing at her name spelling, it says there in brackets.
She's right. She's spot on.
Correct.
Shelley. Yeah.
So usually I don't like the guests people have on their podcasts. The team is already established and I love their banter, interactions and camaraderie. But Shelley is a fantastic addition to the team.
Yeah.
It's cool to hear an American in the mix, as I'm an American, and she really just fits in perfectly with you Brits. And she's funny. Awesome.
Yeah.
Just wanted to send some appreciation. Great stuff, Laura Valensky. Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? That's really, really nice.
Yeah, no, thanks, Laura. And I sent that email to Shelley, and she was very, very appreciative. Laura puts a lovely little thing at the bottom of her emails, which says, you can't do anything about the length of your life, but you can do something about its width and depth. And that's H.L. Mencken, writer, editor, and critic from 1880 to 1956.
There you go, food for thought there.
Now, this is an interesting one. It's called Randall and Hopkirk Recycled, sent on the 11th of August in the year 0037. There you go.
Good year.
From Brendan Wright. Dear BNN ceased, meaning thankfully not deceased. Good day again from New Zealand.
Zooneland, as Wurzel Gummidge would say.
Zooneland. Hello, Zooneland.
But New Zealand, he spelled it Noozeeelan! Exclamation mark. I've just read a review of a new UK comic and saw an intriguing mention of Randall and Hopkirk deceased in the write-up. Here's the link. It's the 2000 AD blog. Have a look at that. It's a WordPress blog. The writer is Dan Whitehead and the artist is 2000 AD's own PJ Holden. Their story is down near the bottom of the page. It's called Jericho 5 and is described here as an updating of Randall and Hopkirk Deceased. Police procedural with a sci-fi edge. Plus, it has dinosaurs, which is always a winner. I'm sure it's not Randall Hopkirk Deceased, but it must follow the same sort of premise. Looking at the comic's own literature, it's a time traveller trapped in 1977 New York joins the fight against crime with the NYPD. Doesn't sound like Randall Hopkirk at all. Anyway, as a PS, I note the comic also has a number of other 2000 AD writers, artists and letterers contributing. One artist is from Pat Mills' new magazine, and there's even lovely Pat Mills. We love a bit of Pat Mills. And there's even Lou Stringer in there with from the Beano magazine. Though I haven't read the comic, I can vouch for one story about a 50s small-town sheriff on Mars dealing with disgruntled brains in bottles protesting outside a steak bar, mainly because they haven't got teeth. The only claim to fame of the writer and artist from that one is he's never missed an episode of the Benji and Nick show. I once had 2 of his letters read out in one show, one by Nick and one by Benji. I'll see if I can get the editor to send you some copies. Oh, that'd be nice, perhaps via the Big Finish mailbox. Thanks again for your cheerful company during the hours at work. Brendan Wright, the cartoonist.
Very interesting, that, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I love it when there are sort of sneaky little nods and references to things that obviously people contributing to things enjoy as well. I think that's rather fun.
So we're going to talk about Hornblower. We should invite Shelley on. Where is she? I've spelt her name wrong, so that will never do. There we are, sending it out now.
So now I'd like to welcome on board the ship Shelley Dean with my wonderful little whistle there. There we go. There we go. I wish I had a real one, but
It's great.
I think it was that the one on the show is a lot higher pitched. It was like,
it is, yeah. It's too much.
Yeah.
It'll wake you up in the morning.
It reminds me of my days in the Sea Scouts, where they used to have those at the beginning of the parades. They used to do the.
That's so fun. That is so. Might have to join the Sea Scouts now just to hear it. There you go. Well, how have you been, Shelley? Anyway.
I'm good. It was, time is irrelevant these days with, the current status of the pandemic. But, I have this to do, so I know I have a thing on today.
A focus, yeah. That's what it's
No.
about, isn't it?
You know when it's Friday.
Yes.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So I feel that Benji, this is like your favourite thing, so you should maybe start off about Hornblower here.
Absolutely. Well, I've got a lot of time for Hornblower. It's just, I just think it's a television show that has such
It
class.
is a television show.
It is what it's a TV movie, one could say.
Yeah, that wasn't an episode of a television show. That was an hour and 40 minutes.
As the proper job.
Yes.
But it's broadcast on ITV, therefore I call it a television program. But I loved it. I think it's an incredibly classy production. It looks fantastic. It's got some great acting in it and some great characters. And I just think it's absolute quality. That's what I would say.
It?
Well, that's what I'd say. For those who don't know what it is, because you could be sitting here and thinking it's literally about a man who blows a horn for an hour and 40 minutes.
Or a whistle.
Or a whistle, yeah, the whistler. It's all about a chap called Horatio Hornblower, who featured as the protagonist in C.S. Forrester's books, all about the British Navy. All that
in Napoleonic War time.
In Napoleonic War time, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. But it's interesting because the books basically chronicle his time, going from his first day on the job as a youngster, and they eventually go right through to when he's an older chap as an admiral of the fleet. Obviously, television series doesn't stretch quite that far, although they would love to do so. But it certainly, it starts off with this episode called The Even Chance, which is his first day on the ship. And I just think it's full of great characters and it just looks so good as well. Yeah, I'm very keen to see what Shelley, because I knew that Briggs would love it because I know Briggs. But Shelley, on the other hand, this is very different for you. So I'm intrigued.
I enjoyed it. It wasn't torture to watch it, but I'm definitely not the target audience. It's not my cup of tea. Let's just say it that way. And I, as with anything that's made out of a book, I feel like they try so hard to marry the two, to satiate the people who enjoy the books and then to bring it to people who've never read the books. And I felt a little left out and confused from a lot of it because I hadn't read the books. But again, I agree. It was the production was well done. The cinematography was fantastic. I may have a disagreement about the acting. Some of the acting was a little, most of the characters I was like, okay, that was a good choice to play that role, but some of them I was, to start with Jack Simpson, the bad guy, the baddie bad guy. Mm-hmm. I just couldn't grasp why they were all so intimidated by him, because he was such not an intimidating figure in my opinion. I don't,
I know I have some sympathy for that view. I thought his performance was great because I hated him, to the requisite degree.
Right.
But I did keep thinking, why don't they turn on him? Because he doesn't seem... But that is often the case with bullies. Yeah. Sometimes they just have something about them and, it would only take them all to gang up on him.
And that he'd be finished, wouldn't he? Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, but maybe there should have been something fundamentally more frightening about him. I don't know.
Maybe if he had been a smarter guy, the only reason he had seniority was time. Was that the case? The reason he came back and they were all like, oh, he's back, that moment, that scene when they were all sitting around the table.
Yeah,
and
he'd failed to get promotion.
Right,
yeah,
he got promoted and then got demoted. They didn't really say what he did, but obviously...
He just wasn't good enough, I imagine.
Right,
yeah.
So
that's why he's so bitter and twisted.
He's not a team player, is he? That's the problem. He wants to be... there is that moment where he gets that... I think he says, does he damn your... I can't remember what he says now, but he gets the knife and he hits the table. And I think that's as close as we actually get to really seeing anything that would indicate he's nasty. So I agree with you.
He's a psychopath, isn't he, really? I think
they should have indicated something he'd done in the past, shouldn't they, really? Threw a bloke overboard or something.
When he beat him up, that showed that he... Yeah, I know what you mean. That's an interesting point, that.
Well, and then sorry, go ahead. I just the thing about Kennedy's seizures or convulsions or episodes, whatever we're going to call those, when Horatio asks, what's wrong with him? The first time it happens when they're in the hammocks, and the guy just turns around and looks over at Simpson, implying that this is a stress related because of something that had happened. But it was so ambiguous that, I was like, does he have, is it like an actual medical issue? Is it a psychological issue? They just didn't touch on that enough.
Well, I think that in those days they wouldn't have known.
Absolutely, yeah. I think maybe Hornblower had a more of a, and maybe he was more intrigued because his father, I think they say in this, was a doctor.
Yes,
that's right.
And so maybe he was thinking like, what's wrong with him? Because obviously, if he talked to his father, maybe his father would have known. But yeah, maybe the others, they'd probably think, I don't know, he's just does this every night.
There was not much known about epilepsy and things in those days, but I mean, people would have known, as is indeed the case, that fits can be brought on by stress.
Right, and they did definitely imply that.
Yeah, that's why
it had stopped when Simpson was off on his new commission, and this was the first one since he was back, so obviously the two are connected.
And there was a moment, wasn't there, when he and the two of them were alone, and he said right then, and you kind of thought, is there a sexual dimension to the intimidation here? You don't know what he was going to do to him there. I don't know. I mean, I think I might be right in saying it's interesting to pick up on one of the things you say, Shelley, saying, you didn't feel sufficiently in on it because you hadn't read the books, but I certainly haven't read the books. And
I've not read the books.
No.
Okay.
I'd
love to.
But this is this is a guy's movie, isn't it?
Yes. That was something I wrote down in when I was taking notes. I was like, there was not a single woman other than like in the the beginning scene where they're all like running around in the quarters underneath when he first arrived. And then the rest of the movie show, whatever, I was like, there's not a single female character in this entire thing.
Later on, as you go through, I think it's in the third episode, you get, it's called The Duchess and the Devil, where they've got the I
bought the box set. I'm going to be watching it all. I love it. It's so stylish.
Oh, I'm podcasting at the moment. Can you shut the doors before? Can you shut both the doors?
Yeah.
Can you shut both the doors? Oh, God, I'll do it myself.
A little bit of a domestic problem there. Yeah.
He's slightly deaf, bless him. Bless him. Sorry about that. Sorry. It's because I haven't turned the light on outside to say that I'm podcasting. It's my fault. Anyway,
I think that if they were to start doing Hornblower adaptations now, I think they would adjust it and get a high-profile female character in it right from the word go. Somehow they would skew it, or they may not. These days, they might choose even not to do it for that reason.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Because it's alienating. It's for as a woman, and I don't need to see a woman in every single thing I watch, but it's just I couldn't personally relate to most of the situations,
Yeah. That's
so
true.
Just as in terms of trying to, if they were to do an adaptation and remake it now, you would want to have a broader audience than, blokes.
Or maybe you just target it at, because it was that kind of fiction written for that kind of audience.
Right.
An interesting thing is that, for me anyway, relating to my sort of comfort zone with fiction and science fiction, is that Gene Roddenberry talked a lot about Captain Kirk being Horatio Hornblower, being inspired by that character. And interestingly, there was a movie of Hornblower, wasn't there, back in the day?
50s, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember who?
I can picture his face, but I can't remember. He was American, though, wasn't he?
Gregory Peck, wasn't it?
Was it Greg?
Absolutely,
because I did when I was doing some, just Googling to see stuff. I saw that there was a movie that was made, and it was called Captain Horatio Hornblower. So I was like, okay, so it's obviously further along down the line.
Oh, I love Gregory Peck as well.
He's fab. Yeah. Omen, what a film!
Just
like where he had this speaking aim was always very straight, wasn't it?
That sounds like the guy I used to be with the honey monster. No one knows what I'm talking about.
No. I don't.
Honey Monster.
But the original Honey Monster adverts on UK television, he used to say, "Tell him about the honey, mummy," and Henry McGee would say, "I'm not his mummy." And that's what I think Gregory Peck sounds like. I'm gone mad. Anyway, in that movie, bearing what Gene Roddenberry said in mind, the theme of it sounds the beginning of it sounds like it's going to do the Star Trek theme. It kind of goes and then goes off on something else. And I think that Gene Roddenberry possibly gave that idea to Alexander Courage, who did the theme for Star Trek. And he thought, Hornblower, okay, that's a good. I'll do something like that. Maybe I'm talking out of an orifice not normally associated with speech, but yeah, it's interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it? It's definitely it's old. It's an old concept, isn't it?
For me, this series was very much son of Sharp. Have you ever seen Sharp?
Oh, it's very sharp, isn't it?
No.
I know you've seen Sharp, but you only seen Sharp. Sharp is. Have you heard of Sean Bean,
Yes.
the actor? Well, Sharp is what made Sean Bean a star,
Okay.
and it was set in Napoleonic times, but he was a foot soldier in the Peninsular War in the early 1800s with Wellington fighting against the French Empire. And interestingly for you, as like us, an aficionado of Doctor Who, Paul McGann was the original Sharp. And he filmed most of the first movie-length episode. And they all went. They filmed it in Eastern Europe somewhere. It wasn't filmed in Spain, and all the actors who stayed over there, they all kind of went a bit native. They were all living in some abandoned hospital or something, and they sort of like created their own caverns to live in, and it was all a bit strange. And so they played a lot of sport together and everything. Paul was very into sport, and they played football. And Paul broke his leg playing football during the shoot, and they recast him. They didn't wait. Paul would have been a household name for being Sharp. But Sean Bean was shipped in to take over. I know all the details because David Troughton was in it playing the Duke of Wellington for the first episode or series. And the interesting thing is that when you see the first episode, I'm right on a tangent here, is that they only replaced the shots with Sharp in. So every other shot, including all reaction shots, they're all playing against Paul McGann.
Oh, so they didn't reshoot the whole thing. They
didn't
just
reshoot that.
fit him in.
They
Wow.
fitted him in. Yeah,
That's crazy, isn't it?
And you can even see, knowing that, because Paul McGann had darker hair than Sean Bean, knowing that when you see a shot over the shoulder of Sharp to, say, the Duke of Wellington, you can see the hair looks darker, even though it's sort of, where it's muddy at the corner of the frame. It is clearly not Sean Bean's hair. It's Paul McGann's hair. But they just left it and thought, well, they'll just assume it's Sean Bean. So this was very much in the wake of that. And I remember sort of thinking, I didn't have the stomach for it at the time, but I have to say, once I put this on, I couldn't stop watching it. I was watching it over breakfast, and then everything stopped on Sunday or Saturday morning when I was watching it, and Steph kept walking past me in the kitchen and wherever I was, kind of like, are you... Right, you're doing that now, are you? Right, you're doing it. And I didn't realise it's an hour and 40 minutes long, so it was an hour and 40 minutes non-stop where I
have
was
to admit, I've never thought about how long it was. I really didn't. I've never really considered it because I just sit and watch it, really. But it is one of those, isn't it? And it's beautiful photography, the ships, real ships. I think
there
one
are
of the
some
things,
models.
some moggles.
There are some models.
I was riffing on Wurzel Gummidge, don't worry.
Sorry, I thought you hadn't heard me.
But it does.
No, I said models, not moggles. I don't know what models are. I'm sorry.
But it looks impressive. There's not a lot. There's no CGI, and that's the thing. Whereas now you'd imagine that every single shot would be. And I think actually in the final, as Hornblower goes on in the final episode, it goes a bit more CG. Actually, I
That's it.
think I remember watching it and
Is
being
that when
like,
the
"Oh."
Starship Enterprise comes in?
Yeah, and saves the day, and William Shatner appears. Interestingly enough, I've got a thing here which says about Simpson's motives and what he was about and why. It says here, so Simpson it says he was weak at mathematics, which kept him from becoming a lieutenant, but excellent at terrorising the other midshipmen. Anybody who tried to rise up against him was beaten into submission. Simpson quickly found vulnerable points for his fellow midshipmen. For example, Horatio Hornblower's shyness, and then used them to torment them. So he said, this is about the book version. It says, Hornblower seemed an easy target for Simpson, young and vulnerable. Hornblower further incited Simpson's anger by correctly solving a problem in navigational course that Simpson couldn't solve. So
yes.
inadequacy.
They had that scene in this.
Now, Benji and I have heard a radio series of this we mentioned last time, which I really loved. It's really old-fashioned radio. It was done in 1969, I want to say. Very old-fashioned BBC radio, but a really beautifully made series. And it's only, I don't know, like 25-minute episodes. And yet they encapsulated the entire story of that 1 hour and 40 minutes in a 25-minute episode, and they did it brilliantly.
It works fine, doesn't it? It works really well.
And it's so shockingly British and terribly correct. It is of a particular style. So I in a way I preferred the radio. Isn't that weird? Even though I did love this and immediately bought the whole box set and will be watching them all. I actually took them to my mother's to watch when I gave her a lift home from a visit. She's in our social bubble. And bouncing along the road. When I got there, I realised I didn't have the right lead to connect my DVD drive to my computer. I was very frustrated. Luckily, my mother's quite deaf, so she couldn't hear me cursing to myself in the bedroom there. Yeah.
It's one of those things, I think,
No, that's interesting, isn't it? That it sounds so patronising. It's very good to get a different perspective, Shelley. This is what you're here
that's
for.
That's why I was keen to put it across, because I thought it's very. If it had been just me and Nick reviewing this, I think it would have fared incredibly well, because we'd just say we both like ships and navy stuff and
Well, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought the action scenes were very well shot. Because those can go asunder when you've got hand-to-hand combat kind of stuff happening. But so all in all, I enjoyed it. I wouldn't seek it out, is what.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you guys hadn't made me watch it, I would. That's not something I would have said, I'm going to sit down for an hour and 40 minutes and watch this. I would have given up in
torture.
I would have given up in like 10 minutes. But having to watch it all the way through, it did get tied into a nice little bow, and there were satisfying moments that happened, and so I can appreciate that this is a character that would be interesting to follow along throughout his life and his career, and see, because he was 17 in this. That was his character's age, and his first ship posting, Navy posting, whatever, like fresh out of school. And, so I do, knowing that he does go on to become an admiral, it would be fun to kind of watch along, his story.
One aspect of that, interesting enough, because this went on for a few years, and I think it finished in 2002. Let me double check that. So it had a good run from 98 to and
what did they do? Did they make a whole series of movies each year, or did they just make one a year?
I think it was just a case by case that they sort of they just did, maybe. I think it went off to a very they were really going for it the first couple of years, making more and doing, and then it was a ratings winner, wasn't it?
I remember it was a big show. Interestingly, mentioning Paul McGann in a similar show, Sharp, he does turn up in this later. Paul turns up as
William Bush
in Hornblower as a recurring character. I know that I remember Paul being away filming for quite some time on this, and it was very difficult for us to get him because he was off in the Caribbean
on the ship. Well, the interesting thing that I'll add to this is that obviously in 2003 they stopped making the show, and that was it. And all of them are really saying, we want to do more of this. And Ewan Griffith, who's Hornblower himself, obviously he's gone on to have a really successful career.
And made a star of him, didn't it?
He's a huge star, Mr. Fantastic.
Well, I know him
Marvel.
from, there was a show here in the States called Ringer with Sarah Michelle Gellar. And he played opposite
Buffy.
her. And that's how I know him, was from that show.
Right.
So,
And
that's interesting.
Yeah, and he played a role on another show that probably no one has heard of, called Unreal. It was a fictional show behind the scenes of a bachelorette or bachelor type of show. It was called Unreal, and it was, the producers and the creators of a show that was called Everlasting, and he played some billionaire who buys the network, and he's only on it for, I don't know, maybe 6 episodes, but yeah.
So he did do the full. He must have come over during pilot season as an actor.
Oh,
and
he
did the full.
had a lead role in a show that lasted. I don't know if it got picked up for a second series, but it was called Forever. And I don't.
How ironic!
Yeah, and I don't remember if I ever watched it, but I know that he was the lead in it. So
right.
So he did pretty well.
He did do pretty well,
Yeah.
and actually he himself loved working on Hornblower. He loved it, and he's passionate about it to the extent that he's been trying for a long time. Because ITV, they're not making it anymore, and I don't think they've got any plans to make it anymore.
They've not got any money anymore, have they? Basically,
well,
ITV?
no, they're exactly. But he's tried really hard to secure the rights himself to produce it himself, because he said in an interview that the thing is, the books show Hornblower's entire life. So it's not a thing of you're too old to do this, or we're past that, because he can pick it up whenever he wants, and he'll be able to, for the rest of his life, potentially be able to make different compelling stories, because there's loads of books, loads of
Well, I hope he
books.
succeeds. I mean, the thing about Ewan Griffith is that unless something appalling happened to him, he was bound to succeed, because he's a really beautiful man, isn't he?
Absolutely, yes,
and he's a good actor. There's no two ways about it. Patronisingly, I would say he's not the most tremendous actor. But he does the job, and he does it well. And he's a good leading man, isn't he? You find it pleasant to look to him every time. You want to know what's happening to him, because he has a compelling charisma. Yeah.
And he gets the character, which I think is nice.
Yes.
He has this interesting combination of, especially in this first one, he's a little bit green. He's young, doesn't always get it right, but he knows it. He knows a strong sense of morals, strong sense of duty, and that sort of officership is the word I want to use, but he's he does it well. He gets it, which I like.
So we come to the point where we issue exclamation marks out of 5.
It's 5 from me, and I think we all saw that coming.
Shocker.
So it's fine. Yeah.
I would say for me 3.5.
Cool.
I'll kind of right in the middle there.
Yeah. Before watching it, I would have said 4 straight away, but I think I will give it 5, because it stopped me. It stopped me from doing anything else, so I was with it. Yeah.
And you went and bought the box set.
And I went and bought the box set straight on Amazon. Bing, there you go. Yes. No hesitation. I was slightly confused that one version of the box set was about 5 times more expensive than the other, and didn't seem to have digital restoration on it.
Maybe it's collector's item or something.
I bought the cheaper one.
The last thing I want to say, actually, is, as I say with nearly everything we watch, is I don't know why the soundtrack to this isn't available, because the music's great, really good score, and it's not available, and you can't find it anywhere.
Who did the music?
The music was done by, let me have a look.
Just this guy, I mean, I felt that the music very much fitted the bill. I mean, the interesting thing, talking about Sharp earlier, that the music from that was a very bold choice.
I can't stand it personally. But,
yeah, exactly. They made me. You'd think that something set in the Napoleonic War, they'd do something very much orchestral, old-fashioned style of music, maybe towards aping musical styles of the early 1800s or something. No, it's electric guitar. It's and it was a bold choice.
Yeah.
Problem is, it dates it. That's what I think.
does.
Sharp looks great when you watch it. It was always growing up. There were always trailers for Sharp on the telly, and it always looked big budget. This was like a movie. But then you hear the music, and it's like, God, this is like, it's a classic 90s thing of like guitar, like funky guitar music and all that. Oh, no, didn't do it for me. No. But
Takes
music
you
for
out
this
of
is
the
done by John.
moment.
It does. Well, you're watching great historical vistas, and then you've got some bloke with his Fender.
I think that, it's not right, is it? I think that orchestral music has been so prevalent in movies and television for years that it feels timeless, doesn't it? It feels like that's what emotions feel like on screen. They feel like orchestras.
Yeah.
Music for this done by John Keane. There we go.
John Keane. I don't know John Keane's work. I'm sorry if you heard a drilling noise just then, but my wife is doing some DIY.
I just keep hearing seagulls. Somebody's got seagulls happening.
I mean, Benji has seagulls, but I have the noisiest seagulls on earth here.
Well, it's kind of appropriate for our what we're discussing to hear the seagulls in the background. I thought, are we adding sound effects already to our conversation?
It's lucky
we're on the sea. We're on the what is it, the Justinian or whatever that ship was called.
Justinian. There he is.
Oh gosh, yeah. I hope that if we were talking about the battle scenes, that suddenly you hear cannons going off.
Yeah.
That reminds me of when Benji and I were first meeting up for virtual drinks during lockdown. That he introduced. What did you do, Benji?
There was this weird website I found where you could create these virtual rooms and with like different sound effects, and so I could trigger different sounds. So it started off just in a pub. I thought we'll make it sound like a pub.
Creepy as hell. I'll say that right now.
It was brilliant. It started off in a pub, and you had like the people chattering and the glasses, and lots going on. And we were like, this is nice, like we're in a pub, a virtual pub. And then it just changed to us being on a ship in the end, creaking and cannons and all sorts.
But also, he was able to trigger things like, he was saying, someone's coming, we don't like him. And then he press a button and you hear all these people going, oh, get out of here. Or say something funny, and then he presses it, and then people would be laughing. Yeah.
That's so stupid.
It's very amusing.
I love you guys.
the things that get us through a worldwide global pandemic, there we go.
Right, now, so what I'm going to do, because Jamie's in a car, I'm going to FaceTime him. You'll be able to hear him in the microphone, but he won't hear you. So if you say something to him, you have to give me time to tell him, then he'll reply, and I'll edit out me saying the thing. Okay. The thing, whatever it is. Let's... You can hear that, presumably.
Yes.
Hello.
Well, we're saying hi. He can't hear us.
Yeah, it's pointless. Us talk. Yeah.
Hey, Benji, how are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Everyone just said hello.
Well, that's very nice of them, but I'm afraid that doesn't make up for them all slagging off Terrorhawks.
He looks quite cross, everyone.
We ended up not being so mean at the end.
Yeah, I mean, you've just outed her there by saying it's a lie. So that didn't go very well, Shelley.
His words, not mine.
Could you mount a defence for Terrorhawks, please, Jamie?
I think when viewed through a lens which has been constructed and polished by watching Thunderbirds and falling in love with a show like that, or watching it with any kind of an expectation that it is a modern sci-fi show, instantly means you've got a problem with it. And also, it takes time to fall in love with the characters. They design a main character who is not lovable, and that is a big problem. But if you can push through 3 or 4 episodes, especially get to series 3 when the transgender German scientist baby is born, I mean, isn't that enough of a hook to make you want to watch more?
Shelley, is that enough of a hook?
No.
Right, well, there's no hope for Shelley. But yeah, that's all I can say. Look, plenty of people love Terrorhawks. Not everything's for everyone, but I am disappointed that nobody on the Benji and Nick show found anything nice to say about it other than, thank God it's over.
We said the models were good.
Oh, good. Well, that's all right then.
I think our biggest problem was the racism.
Well, yes. I mean, you do realise it's very old, and that's what people were like in the 1980s in England, unfortunately. We're not like that now, Shelley.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. Doesn't sound like she's convinced.
Someone who wrote in, Neil Allen, said, Dr. Neinstein needs reporting to the Terrorhawks HR department. Talk about a chip on his shoulder. The rest of the team must be walking around on eggshells.
Yeah. I mean, he's a bit of a prick, really. So, I mean, that's why in the audio series we killed him. We destroyed that character, and we destroyed the show's ability to replace him as he was, because I thought that was a big flaw. And so by the end of series 3, we've got a nice new Neinstein in there, who's there because that particular clone managed to climb his way up and be a good commander and a good people person. So it's fine. The moral of the story is, if you're a bad boss, then someone's going to kill you.
I think we should all learn from that. Neil also says, in episode 2, Zelda gives Terrorhawks a road. A road. This must be the first time in the history of fiction any aliens have shown their awesome power by building roads.
She was trying to keep it relatable. Yeah, look, the first 2 episodes are rubbish. So, and I'm happy to say that, but it gets better after that.
Okay. He also says the puppets were terrible. Their faces had no expressions than any of the character of previous Anderson puppets. This is a person who loved it when he first saw it as a kid, by the way.
Gosh. Yeah, I mean, they were ugly puppets. Neinstein certainly looked like he'd been in a terrible car accident.
Yeah.
Had quite sort of low-budget reconstructive surgery.
Yes. Was that intentional?
No, Neinstein was the biggest problem for them in many ways, and I still wish they'd sorted the character out. But originally he was going to be older, and they had a puppet which was a bit more like Dad, bald with a sort of a ring of silver hair around the side, back and sides. And then they went, oh no, he's too old to be a hero. Quick, resculpt him because we've got to shoot in 3 days. I don't think it wasn't quite that short. And then there was an element of, oh well, that'll do, which for your hero character, I mean, the budget was tiny for that show. It was like, I don't know, 20% of the Thunderbirds budget, something like that. Wow. But bearing in mind how hamstrung they were, and you compare it to a lot of other stuff made for kids in the early 80s, it's leagues ahead in many respects.
Yeah, no. Well, and the good thing about this chap, Neil Allen, he did actually buy the Blu-ray in order to reassess it, so a sale was made, so that's good.
Well, that's fantastic. So despite your best efforts, somebody has still bought Terror.
Yes, yeah. His final point, which I just wanted to put to you, was he said, as a kid, I remember the Ball Zeroids as being amazing, and as characters, they are. Windsor Davis and Shelley's favourite character, 101 or 101, is it? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, 101.
101 on the space station are probably the best part of the show. But as soon as my partner pointed out that Zeroids sounds like hemorrhoids and look like giant silver hemorrhoids, I lost a lot of respect for poor old Sergeant Major Zero.
Yeah, it's fair. They could have been amazing characters, and they should have been a huge toy success, but they didn't quite work. So, yeah, fair enough. Can't win them all. Certainly can't win with you three miserable buggers.
Yeah, well, I think we all feel your righteous rage on this subject.
Good. I mean, I unsubscribed to the Benji and Nick show in response to your horrific comments.
And deliberately went out on a drive.
Yeah, I'm actually leaving the country, so I don't have to reside in the same place as you and Benji any longer.
Oh, it's terrible, isn't it?
Makes me sad, sick to the teeth.
It's a terrible scandal has occurred here. Well, Jamie, thank you for joining us, and I think that everyone out there who loves Terrorhawks, and I know that there are at least several of them, will be heartened by your very robust defence, as indeed am I.
Yes, and may I just encourage all of those to send a dog poo in a box to Nick Briggs, number one. No, I won't give you my address, but be warned, future slagging off of Terrorhawks will result in a shower of boxed up dog turds.
Right. Okay. Well, it's lucky the people who like tripods didn't react quite as badly to my review of that. All right, mate. Well, listen, drive safely, and it's great to see you in the driving seat wearing your Joe 90 t-shirts.
I love my Joe 90 t-shirt, thank you. I hate Joe 90, but I love the t-shirt.
Oh, controversial. Should we all say goodbye to Jamie?
Well, us here at the Benji and Nick Show love Joe 90 actually, and we're so annoyed at you not liking it that we encourage people to send you dog turds. There we go.
90 of them. Right, thanks. I can't wait.
Dear.
I'm waving.
He's
Bye.
waving.
We're waving.
Bye.
Bye, Jamie.
Bye.
Bye. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Ta-da.
He's gone. I think I've never seen him so upset.
Oh, well. He should have been here. He should have been with us when we were having this original conversation.
Yeah, he should.
It's unfair for us to have to defend ourselves a week later.
Yeah.
It's very true. Very true.
And there's more of us, so
yeah,
we're
exactly.
obvious-
Yeah.
That's how it works, isn't it?
He's the Jack Simpson to us.
We're the British Navy.
That's right.
Exactly. So, what was it? A nice bit of Dick Van Dyke accent work there from Shelley.
Yes.
So I've immediately got a suggestion for what we're doing next week. I want us to do a commentary of Inferno.
Hold on. Hold your horses though.
Yeah.
We do need to finish Planet the Daleks first though. We can't.
Yes, we can. We started Revenge of the Cybermen before.
As long as we do, because I worry.
We will finish. I
worry that people get distressed that things not being finished. I don't know.
I really want us to look at Inferno. It's a Doctor Who story from 1970, just in case you didn't know.
It is a cracker,
and we've all got access to it.
Yes.
So we will actually watch it and talk about it while it's on. So Shelley, I don't think you've ever seen it, have you?
No, I have not.
So you probably better watch it beforehand. Benji and I watch it every morning for breakfast.
Yeah, just part and parcel, really.
I've seen it so many times. I can't imagine. I can't imagine how many times I've seen it. It's a big number.
Okay, well.
Is that all right for me to impose that on you?
On me?
Yeah, on
That's
both
not
of you.
It's not an imposition at all. I look forward. I said that before. I very much look forward to seeing it. So.
Okay.
It's a good old bit of Doctor Who, Who.
Because you're very much a fan of the post 2005 series, aren't you? Yeah.
New Who, as they say.
And have you watched old episodes?
I have
before?
seen some. I started watching First Doctor. With all the intentions of going all the way through.
Yeah,
and
that would be tough.
It got discouraging because there were, the episodes that they only have the audio, so it was like just screenshots and audio, and I kind of just pulled away from it, and I do intend at some point to go back and watch all of it. So,
wow,
yeah.
There's quite a few episodes I can't bear to watch, but there you go.
Well, you'll have to give me those notes ahead of time so I can just go skip.
Different views, I suppose.
Yes.
Who knows? Who knows? All right, then. Benji, is there anything I'm missing here, or shall we get close to the microphone?
I think it's close to the microphone time, I think. Yes.
And I promise that we will do Planet... What were we up to, Planet of the Daleks?
We've got one more to do, that's all.
Okay, well, we'll start Inferno off.
I love a bit of
then-
Inferno. There's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong this end. Nothing wrong this end.
Anyway, from me, Nick Briggs, it's goodbye.
From me, Benji C, it's good be.
And from me, Shelley Dean, it's bye for now.
Pressing stop now. Ka-chunk.